She disappeared one winter night and never came back. Learn English with a mystery story. Level A2, let's start. The house at the end of the road, but on the old house. My name is Daniel. I am 30 years old. I want to tell you a strange story. It happened to me 3 years ago in a small village called Ashwood. I am a photographer. I take pictures of old buildings and forgotten places. One autumn day, I was driving through the countryside. I was looking for interesting places to photograph. The sky was gray and the wind was cold. At the end of a long, empty road, I saw an old house. It was big and dark. The windows were broken. The garden was full of dead leaves and tall, dry grass. There was something strange about this house. I felt it immediately. I stopped my car and looked at the house for a long time. It did not feel like a normal house. It felt alive somehow. I took out my camera. I wanted to take some photos before the sun went down. I walked closer to the house. The wind became stronger. I heard a strange sound like a whisper. I looked around, but there was no one near me. The village was far away behind the hills. I was completely alone. It's just the wind, I told myself, but I did not really believe it. I walked to the front door. It was old and wooden, with a strange symbol carved into it. I had never seen the symbol before. It looked like a circle with strange lines inside. The door was not locked. Slowly, I pushed it open. It made a loud, terrible sound. Inside, the house was dark and full of dust. There was old furniture covered in white sheets. A broken clock stood in the corner. It showed the time, 3 o'clock, but the clock was not moving. I turned on my flashlight and walked further into the house. There was a strange smell, like old flowers and smoke. I took some photos of the empty rooms. My camera flash lit up the dark walls for a moment. Suddenly, I heard footsteps above me. I stopped and listened carefully. The footsteps were slow and heavy. They moved across the floor upstairs. My heart started beating fast. "Hello?" I called out. "Is someone there?" No one answered. The footsteps stopped. I told myself it was probably an animal or maybe just the old house making noises. Old houses often make strange sounds, but deep inside, I knew this was different. Maybe I was curious, maybe I wanted to prove to myself that I was not afraid. I walked up the old wooden stairs. Each step made a loud creak. At the top of the stairs, there was a long, narrow hallway. There were several closed doors. One door, at the very end of the hallway, was slightly open. A thin light came through the gap. I walked toward that door. My hands were shaking, but I continued. When I reached the door, I pushed it open. Inside there was a small bedroom. A single bed stood against the wall. On the bed there was an old, dusty doll. The doll had black eyes and a torn dress. It looked very old, maybe 100 years old. I felt very uncomfortable, but I lifted my camera and took a photo of the doll. The flash lit up the room brightly. When I looked at the photo on my camera screen, I felt cold all over my body. In the photo, next to the doll, there was a face. A pale, thin face of a young girl. She was not in the room when I took the photo. I was completely alone in that bedroom, but in the picture, she was clearly there looking directly at the camera. I dropped my camera in shock. It fell on the floor with a loud crash. I quickly picked it up and ran out of the bedroom. My heart was beating very fast. I ran down the hallway and down the stairs. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I heard a quiet voice. It was a girl's voice, soft and sad. "Please don't go," the voice whispered. "Stay with me." I did not stop. I ran through the front door and out into the garden. The wind was now very strong, almost like a storm. I ran to my car as fast as I could. My hands were shaking so much that I could barely open the car door. I drove away from that house as fast as possible. I did not look back. I drove for almost an hour until I reached the next town. I stopped at a small cafe to calm down. My whole body was shaking and my heart was still beating fast. I ordered a coffee and sat down at a table. I took out my camera and looked at the photos again. The photo of the girl's face was still there. It was very clear. She looked sad, not scary, but something about her eyes made me feel deeply uncomfortable. The next day, I could not stop thinking about the house and the girl's face. I decided to learn more about that place. I went to the local library in the nearest town and asked the librarian about the old house at the end of the road. The librarian, an older woman, looked surprised when I asked. "You went to that house?" she said quietly. "Not many people go there anymore." She told me the story. About 100 years ago, a family lived in that house. They had one daughter, a young girl named Elizabeth. According to the story, Elizabeth became very sick when she was 12 years old. Her parents tried everything to help her, but nothing worked. One winter night, Elizabeth disappeared from her bedroom. Her parents searched everywhere, but they never found her. Some people in the village said she ran away. Others said something terrible happened to her in that house. No one ever knew the truth. After Elizabeth disappeared, her parents left the house and never returned. Over the years, many different families tried to live there. But strange things always happened. People heard footsteps, whispers, and crying sounds at night. Eventually, everyone stopped trying to live in the house and it became empty. Some people believe, the librarian said, that Elizabeth never really left. They believe her spirit still lives in that house, waiting for someone to find her or waiting for her parents to come back. I listened to the story with growing fear. Everything matched what I had experienced. The doll, the whisper, the sad face in the photograph. I thanked the librarian and left the library. I felt confused and frightened, but also strangely curious. I could not stop thinking about Elizabeth. Why did she show herself to me? What did she want? That night, I could not sleep. I kept looking at the photograph on my camera. The girl's face seemed to look directly into my eyes. I felt a strange connection to her, even though I had never met her, and she had died 100 years before I was born. I decided to do more research about Elizabeth's family. I searched online and found some old newspaper articles from that time. According to one article, Elizabeth loved drawing and painting. She wanted to become an artist when she grew up. This information shocked me deeply. As I mentioned before, I am a photographer. I capture images and stories just like an artist does. Maybe this was why she appeared to me. Maybe she recognized something familiar in me. A week later, I decided to go back to the house. I know this sounds strange, even crazy. My friends told me not to go. They said it was dangerous, but I felt like I needed to return to understand what really happened and maybe to help Elizabeth find peace. I arrived at the house in the late afternoon. This time the sky was clear and the sun was shining. The house looked less scary in the daylight, but I still felt that same strange feeling in the air. I walked inside, calling out softly, "Elizabeth, I'm here. I want to understand." The house was silent. I walked up the stairs again, toward the small bedroom. The door was open, just like before. The old doll was still on the bed, exactly where I'd seen it last time. I sat down on the floor near the bed. I read about you, I said quietly. I know you wanted to be an artist. I am a photographer. Maybe we are similar in some way. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the temperature in the room became colder. The doll's head slowly turned just a little toward me. I felt afraid, but I did not run this time. I just wanted someone to remember me, a soft voice said. It was the same voice from before. Everyone forgot about me. No one remembers my drawings, my dreams, my name. I remember you now, I said, and I will share your story with others. People will know about Elizabeth and about your art. The room became warmer again. A gentle wind moved through the open window like a quiet sigh. The doll's head returned to its normal position. I felt the strange, heavy feeling in the air slowly disappear. But I always remember that strange afternoon in the old house. I do not fully understand what happened that day, and I probably never will. After my visit, I wrote an article about Elizabeth's story with some of my photographs from the house. The article became quite popular online. Many people read about the young girl who loved art and disappeared so many years ago. Some people even visited the house themselves just to see it, though most people said the house felt calm and quiet, with no strange sounds or whispers anymore. I like to believe that Elizabeth finally found some peace, simply because someone, after 100 years, finally remembered her name and her dreams. Sometimes, late at night, I still look through my old photographs from that day. I see the empty rooms, the dusty furniture, and the old doll on the bed, and sometimes, just for a moment, I think I see something else in the shadows of the photographs. But maybe that is just my imagination, playing tricks on me in the quiet darkness of my room, the end. Thank you for listening to this story. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, I hope this story made you think and maybe gave you a small chill down your spine. Remember, every old house has a story, and sometimes that story is waiting for someone to listen.